Good morning, New Life. I am Pastor Greg, and we have the treat of diving into 1 Peter again on our devotions. I'll share with you where we're going in this devotion, and that is I want to encourage you, on the one hand, to give everything you have in running the race for the glory of God. Give everything you have. But as you give everything you have, know that in the end, it doesn't depend on your strength. It depends on His. And Jesus Christ is going to see you to the finish line. There's a lot of commands in 1 Peter up to this point. In fact, just over the last few devotions, the last few verses in 1 Peter chapter 5, Pastor John introduced the theme of shepherding the church as far as the elders and respecting the elders. But in this passage, there's command after command. Clothe yourself with humility. Humble yourselves. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. Resist the adversary. Command upon command upon command. It's saying you need to suffer and you need to persevere and you need to do good. You need to run the race. And all of those commands have their place in our life. But it comes to verse 10 and 11 in chapter 5 with these words. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. To Him be the dominion forever and ever. Amen. So essentially, again, this is saying you need to fight the fight. You need to run the race. It's not easy to be a Christian. We have command upon command upon command that can feel impossible. We need to forgive. We need to be gracious. We need to die to our own preferences in order to love other people well. If that sounds tiring to you, it is. And 1 Peter would say, you need to persevere in doing that. But here it begins to close with this ray of hope. You give everything you have, to love well, to fight the fight, to take your thoughts captive, to pray continually, to love others, to seek glorifying God in all of life. You give everything. But in the end, Jesus Christ is the one who sees us across the finish line. And after you have suffered a little while, after you have gone through all that you have to fight and run this race, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. How does it feel to hear that Jesus Christ, God the Father, is going to restore you? It's going to confirm you. It's going to strengthen you and establish you. Lately, I've gone through a favorite passage of mine out of Matthew. It's a favorite of many, but there was a blog of a friend recently that went through it, and it brought it back to the front of my mind. This statement of Jesus where He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for His yoke is easy and His burden is light." This mindset that we can partner with Jesus. And while we're called to give everything we have, we can rest in the fact that His strength is going to see us across the finish line. We can rest that yes, I'm going to do everything to glorify you, God, today. I'm going to do everything I can to obey you today. I'm going to do everything I can with my words and with my heart and with my actions to live an honorable life. And that is good and that is worshipful. But in the end, unfortunately, you and I will fail at living that out, certainly to the standard of holiness of God. And so we do everything we can to live it out, resting in the fact that God's going to see us across. God is going to restore you. He's going to confirm you, strengthen you, and establish you. And I want to encourage you again on both sides of this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, a favorite verse of mine, Paul is talking about being an apostle, and he says, I worked harder than all of them. This is contrasting himself with all the other apostles, because Paul became an apostle in an odd way, saying, I worked harder than all of them, yet it was not I, but it was the grace of God inside of me. It was God working inside of me. And so part of the command is for you and I to give everything we have. And I think we need to lean into that. It's not easy to give everything you have. Today, so I've been, for exercise, I've been walking this hill that you can see behind me during this season, because I don't have another form of exercise. And so this hill, there's a simple walk that I do that is a mile down and a mile back up. And that mile back up is 800 feet up, and the mile down is 800 feet down. And so that 800 feet of elevation, both down and up, beats me up. And today, in the heat of the day, I didn't do it because it was fun. I did it because there's a certain thrill and satisfaction that it's good for me. Paul calls us to train ourselves in godliness, to take very seriously the commands, to take our thoughts captive, to obey God, to love others, to forgive others, to live with graciousness. And I don't want to harp on this theme, but lately I have seen within our whole culture a lack of grace, a highly opinionated people who think they're right. God calls us to set aside our rights, to set aside our preferences, to be gracious to one another. To live that out is a challenge. But here is the glory in the midst of it. You and I should strive to do everything we can to live that out, while we know that Jesus is going to see us across the finish line. The end of this race does not depend on your strength or on my strength. The end of this race is sealed in the strength of Jesus Christ. He will restore you, confirm you, strengthen you, and establish you. And with that, I say, let's fight the fight and run this race with the rest that Jesus Christ is going to see us across. God be with you.